Live from the Orion Cygnus arm of the Milky Way galaxy, this is Scientifically Speaking, a weekly half-hour program devoted to elegant curiosities, and I am one of your hosts, Sarah Chang, and joining me as always is Bernie Rhyme, DJ Star Watcher. How are you, Bernie?
Yes, hi Sarah, very good, thank you.
Bernie is our professor of the Astronomy Lab at USM and our local protector of the night skies. Reach out to us at WMPG Scientifically Speaking at gmail.com or on Twitter at WMPG SciSpeak. And if you want to catch the last 5 weeks of archives of our show and all of your other favorite shows, go to WMPG.org. Bernie, could you let our listeners know what is up in the night sky for this coming week?
Yes, certainly. So this is Friday, February 19th. So we have a full moon today, tonight actually. So the February full moon has several interesting names. As you know, probably everyone knows the harvest moon, usually in September, or maybe the hunter's moon in October. But the February one is called the snow moon. Usually there's a lot of snow on the ground. Then it could be the hunger moon, because some animals might not be able to find food if that's the case. Then there's also something that's called a trapper's moon, because that's when the animal fur is the thickest, so people can trap the animals when they used to do that. And then there's also the storm moon, because we often get a lot of the snow and storms in February. So the February full moon has 4 different names. And by now, if you have enough clear nights and mornings, you will be able to see all 3 of those planets. That with the Jupiter and Saturn that were really close back in the solstice. Mercury will have joined them for a little while, and you can see them in the morning sky about half an hour before sunrise. And then the only evening planet now will be Mars, and that's setting around midnight. So, actually, last year, when the February full moon last year was actually a supermoon, which is not the case this year. But I remember when I was flying back from the Johnson Space Center in Houston, watching the February full supermoon coming up in the east with the sunset behind me, and I was watching the shadow of the Earth projected on our atmosphere flying back from Houston. So that was really memorable, just
Wow.
a year ago now. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Bernie.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And if you couldn't take notes fast enough, you can also check out the monthly What's Up column in the Portland Press Herald. Today's show is, we have a special guest who's a good friend of Bernie's, and we've titled this show very aptly, Saving Mike from Himself. And our guest for today is Michael Shannon. Dr. Michael Shannon, can I call you that?
Well, just call me Mike.
Just Mike. All right. So I think we have enjoyed having our guests introduce themselves, but I wanted to start off by you have done a lot of things in your life. You spanned so many different industries, occupations, from being on a farm to publishing, working on plants, education. How would you best describe yourself to our listeners who have no idea who you are?
I would start off by saying I'm on the go. I'm always busy. I've always got something going on. Something new comes down the pike, I get involved with it. And it was the stuff kind of flowed out of some interests I developed when I was a child. And then as I got older and I went on to school, which I hated public school, and then I went to college and I started to be able to perform pretty well. I did all right. I got good grades and all that stuff. And then I became a dairy farmer. And then the guy who owned the farm died. And I said, well, what am I going to do? So I went back to school and I got a master's degree in guidance and counseling. And they said, geez, Mike, you're really smart. You should go get a doctorate. And I'm laughing, whoa, you got to be kidding me. I didn't even get into college when I got out of high school. So I did. But even with that in hand, there's still things that I do that people that go on to grad school don't do.
Mm.
And I used to spend summers building decks. And so there's this handiwork and there's all these different skills and abilities and interests and whatever else. And it just continues on and on. That's why I need to have you save me from me.
But is it so bad? So one of the I guess it's like a metaphor that I use when comparing myself to a good friend of mine who he's very, very good at kind of music, and that's really his only schlep.
Yeah.
Everything else that he's really average or not good at. Whereas I also feel like I'm kind of okay at a lot of different things, but I don't have any, you know, things that I'm very, very good at. And so I describe him as a very small forest of like a couple really tall trees. And I'm just like a plain of really short bushes.
Yeah.
or you know, slightly taller trees, but
Right.
not much taller than a bush.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Oh,
So, among your many different um, lines of work, I mean, it's so hard to, because most people they make a career out of one to maybe three,
yeah.
maybe four. Like that's like maybe the most. I don't know. Or Bernie, how many? You've had a lot of different
Yeah,
turns in your.
but not nearly as many as Mike. And Mike also has sailing and other interesting things. I mean, some of my biggest adventures were really after I started teaching, getting to see the eclipse and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's not as wide, but yeah, I mean, it's probably more than the average person. Some of my students were never out of Maine, so
Yeah.
that's pretty limiting.
So one of the things that was on your resume of skills that really caught my eye was that you were an I don't know, are you still a certified bovine artificial insemination technician?
Yes, I am. I don't have to keep re-upping. Like I used to have a license to drive a bulldozer and an excavator and all that kind of stuff, but that costs money.
Oh,
But when I was doing the farm thing, um, I could get paid to take care of the cows and help them become parents. And so I did that, and it was pretty cool. I learned that in agricultural school, and well,
what
it's
does it take? What does it take to do that?
um
I don't even know where to start.
let me say that the basic job is to put sperm in the uterus of a cow.
Hmm.
Okay, so we get frozen ampules, we thaw them out, we put it in a tube, and then there are some things that we do that I really don't think we ought to explain.
Probably not.
Some,
So the sperm though that you're inseminating,
yeah,
that's from some donor?
yeah. Oh, not just a donor, Sarah. There's big bucks.
Oh.
This is all tested stuff. So you can figure out if you've got a cow that has lousy legs, but she makes good milk, you can get a bull that is known to improve the legs on a calf.
Hmm.
And you use that. So no, there is a lot of money in that. And
Wow.
so it's not just a donor, the poor bull, well, he's got a pretty good job, but you know, hey, but so it was really fun. And my friends used to make fun of me until they found out that I made a lot of money doing it. And so it was pretty cool. And
Do you mind sharing how much you made?
I could get the average I got was about $15 a cow.
Wow.
And some farm that might have 300 cows might call me up, and there might be 10 cows tied up in the barn with a note on them. Use this bull on here, this bull on here, this bull on here. Right. So I gather up all my tools and I go in and get ready, do my thing, and get a check for $150.
Wow. Wait, so these are bulls that they own, that they like they know we want this one to
Well,
kind of
there's breeding companies. And back in the olden days, I used to use mostly American Breeder Service. So there would be like a manual of bulls,
okay.
different breeds for the cows I always used to work with when I was younger were Guernseys. So I look at Guernsey bulls, but there'll be Holstein bulls and brown Swiss and Ayrshires and Jerseys and all that kind of stuff. So
Wow.
and you talk about science. Oh my heavens. All of the things that are involved in that, the investigations and um whatever else. It is so cool. And the sperm is shipped around frozen in these big vacuum things like a thermos, and so they keep it in liquid nitrogen. And we have our own tank at the farm, and the nitrogen guy would come around once a month and fill the tank up, and then we'd leave a bucket out, and he'd always give us a little bit extra in the bucket. So we'd like dip roses in it, get them frozen,
Oh,
hit them, bing, and they shatter and all that kind of stuff. So it was a wild time.
yeah, I guess so.
Do you still do this at all?
No, not now.
And any reason why you left?
Um, well, I didn't have the drive for that anymore.
Mm.
I did it. That was cool. I did a lot of cool stuff, but then other stuff came along, and I mean, if you end up getting a cow or something, you need help, call me. I'll come over and I'll do it for you.
Yeah, you gotta get a cow in Portland, right? So you don't think you can do that.
Well, I mean, we have farms like right over in Westbrook, and it's
I
not
know,
too
but
far
not right where you are.
away.
Yeah.
Very cool. And so, after kind of animal life, it sounded like you went into counseling education. Is that about right? What drew you to the counseling side?
Well, when I was going to study agriculture, I minored in vocational education. So I got interested in the career aspects of kids and vocational skills and the like. And so I was stuck in the middle of Pennsylvania with nothing to do. So I said, hey, I'll go back to school. And I went to school and I ended up getting in. I got full tuition and pay. I had to teach a class.
Nice.
And so, hey, you pay me to go to school? I'll go to school. It was interesting. And I studied mostly the human development, career development aspects of teaching and learning. And it was fun. And that's what I continued on. And I got a doctorate in uh, human relations, counseling, and human development. So, because I got paid to go to school still. So,
Yes, keep going. You should do postdoc. Keep
yeah,
going.
yeah,
And so I thought it was interesting that it seems like you were able to take that experience to do because you were a swimming teacher for persons with cerebral palsy.
yes. Oh, that was a gas. That was when I was a kid, and I worked at a summer camp, and I worked in the kitchen. I played the bugle, and I taught uh, folks with cerebral palsy swimming, which was just a gas. It was so much fun because once they could feel comfortable putting their face in the water, then we started doing stuff, and then they'd end up swallowing more water than you're supposed to, and I'd be working with them, and then whoa, all the water would come out, and I'd say, well, let's keep on going, and we just had so much fun. But the biggest thing there was to find out what's the lowest level we should start at.
Mm.
What can you do? Can you walk in the water? Can you walk up to your chest? Can you put your face in the water? What are the steps in looking at solving this little issue that we have about learning how to swim? And every one of them passed the Red Cross test for beginning swimmers.
Hmm.
What does that look like? Is that like
Like a
swimming
little card, but no,
Well,
that's
no.
It's a tough test there, Sarah.
the it's the Red Cross has a series of levels of swimming skills that a person can attain, all the way up to being the head teacher. And it was a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah. And later you were also a teacher and counselor for the blind.
Yes,
Was that from your education?
yeah, that was there was a program in Pennsylvania for people with uh, mostly blindness, and people that had deterioration diseases like retinitis pigmentosa and the like, that they were going to become blind. And if they passed this summer program that I worked with, um, then they got a scholarship for a bachelor's degree program in any program that would fit them. So that wouldn't be just to go to a 2 year school or 4 year school, but any. I worked with one woman who ended up going to Skidmore. And,
Wow.
so that's not chop liver.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So you are also a door-to-door milkman. Is
yeah.
that
That's a tough
what
job.
inspired that? Yeah, no, I mean, we don't, I don't think that happens anymore, does it?
No,
This was with the glass bottles, right?
yes, with the cream floating on the top
Hmm.
and all of that stuff, and ice cream and whatever else, eggs and all that. If I had to go back and do one job that I ever had in my life,
You got the question I was going to ask.
Yeah.
I would go back and be a milkman.
Wow.
I got to go into 60 to 80 houses a day. Many houses I had keys. I'd open the door, I'd go in and put the milk in the refrigerator, see what the notes are. Some people say, well, make sure we have this many eggs and this many whatever else. And I look in, see what they got, and I go get it and fill it up. And I would talk to the most fascinating people in the world. And it was the people, it was Guernsey milk, of course, because I'm a Guernsey guy. And the other part of that is I felt really cool because I was helping people get good food.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow. Of all the jobs, that's the one. Do you think that if you were to do that today, like that was a service that, had gone away and it came back in
Yeah,
February 2021,
yeah.
or let's say pandemic aside, do you feel like it would be the same?
um, Essentially, it would be feeding people, bringing stuff to the folks, um, and going house to house, talking to folks. And I'm not shy anymore. So
Where you were shy at some point?
for about an hour and a half after I was born.
Yeah, that figures. Hmm. Hour and a half.
So, you are also a high school teacher, and I'm assuming that's from after your master's or doctorate degrees.
Yeah.
How did you end up going to becoming a high school teacher?
Well, the whole farmer thing. I taught vocational agriculture.
Hmm.
I taught farm shop. I was a shop teacher, and I taught dairy herd management, dairy technology, how to process milk, and what else? I taught meat cutting one semester,
Oh.
and that was pretty cool. But I had a really good time with the field and forage crops. Was the most fun because there were a lot of kids that went to ag school who said, we're not smart. We're going to go to ag school. And I said, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. You can be smart and be a farmer. We need smart farmers. And what they didn't know it was one of the things that we had to do was we had to teach them surveying.
Mm.
And so what's surveying? That's geometry with a telescope.
Yeah.
You set the thing up, you look at it, you measure it. And one of the problems was they had to measure the school grounds. Well, there was a pond right in the middle. And I said, okay, guys, because it was all guys at that time. Okay, guys, you got to measure this area here. You need these marks that you got to go through. And I said, you can either go through the pond or I can show you some things to use. And I said, I'll give you some formulas. All you have to do is get numbers and plug them in and then just do the math. And all that was geometry. And I said, what's geometry? Oh, yeah, I can't know geometry. I said, geometry, geo, earth, metry, measurement, geometry, earth measurement. Surveying is geometry with a telescope.
Hmm.
That's a great way to put it. I feel like Bernie, you could use that for your
Yeah,
class.
no, yeah. Well, now they have GPS. I mean, I've done some like survey work through my real estate work where they do flood surveys and they're all tied in with the GPS satellites and they don't even have to do the math
Yeah,
anymore. your students.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
did you
there are.
also teach similar subjects when you were teaching in college?
No, no. I taught counseling, human development skills, counseling skills. I taught a lot of the theory classes, the various counseling and developmental theories, because theory classes are deadly. They can be boring. And
Yeah.
I made them. We had music, we had poetry, we had all kinds of stuff. We had, let's see how weird we can go over this this theory.
Yeah.
And uh, and I run into students that I had 25 years ago, and they say, "Hey, Mike, do you remember that day that we talked about this and you were telling us that?" And I'm thinking, "No," but I'll smile.
Yeah.
And but they remembered it, and that's the thing that was important to me. I didn't want to present information to them that they got to write down. I wanted them to take it in and kind of array it in their brain in a manner that they can get in touch with it later, so they can use it to help the people with whom they're working.
Yeah.
And I don't know when Freud was born. I don't know when Freud died. I don't know whatever about, but I know a lot about his theory. So
Yeah.
that's it. So that was a cool part.
I think that's really similar because we just did a show last week on or a couple weeks ago on how Bernie inspires his students to appreciate astronomy in different ways, and he incorporates a lot of those elements into his course.
Yeah, I
Oh
knew
yeah.
Mike would never be boring. I try to do that too. Maybe not quite as good as Mike, but I try.
Oh, come on now.
I'm thinking like with every question, I'm thinking, oh, he's gonna answer it like this, and then you just do a left turn and you answer it a completely different
Yeah.
way,
Yeah,
and I'm
Mike's
like, wow.
unpredictable. I like that. I like that about him.
One last thing, before the show, you had mentioned that you were in a study in multi-talented children.
Yes.
Could you speak about that more? Because as listeners are hearing, you have done so many different things. I don't think, I mean, I know, we have our high school jobs and we have our jobs in college, but I don't think it nearly amounts to what you have done in your lifetime.
Well, thank goodness for that. Because it's good to be steady. But this multi-talented kid thing was, I had interest in arts. I had interest in science. I had an interest in math until eighth grade teacher decided that I was, and I proved her right. And, and all that. But all of a sudden, I sort of fit this really weird profile. And so somebody from Harvard came to the schools and they said, "Do you have any kids like this?" And they said, "Oh yeah, Mike." And so they put me in and they got some tests and all that kind of stuff. And they did IQ, but then they did interest, and then a lot of it turned up in John Gardner's work
Okay.
on what the well John Gardner at Harvard, the stuff that I can't remember it right now. I'm smart, but I'm not a good memory guy.
Yeah.
But so that's how I got involved with that. And so they would give me these different tests, colors and shapes and whatever else. And they'd show me one side of something. They say, "What's the other side look like?" And so,
Huh.
and they followed me along all the way through junior high school, and the first 2 years of college. And so,
What came of it? Like, what were they trying to?
I think they got a lot of grants,
Oh.
and they wrote a lot of papers.
Yeah.
Did you get paid for this?
Yeah, they wrote a paper, and a lot of graduate students, and I never really followed that up. And,
Okay. Maybe I'll do some digging and I can find something.
all right,
Post it up. John Gardner.
Yeah.
John Gardner and multiple intelligences. That's it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've
yeah.
heard of that.
So yeah.
So lastly, you are a pretty good guitar player, singer,
Well, I show
from
up.
what I hear.
I,
um, and I believe Bernie has made a special request,
Yes.
yeah,
and it's related to kind of some of the, well, talking about your history with agriculture and farming.
yeah.
What is a song that you are going to share with us?
I'm going to make an attempt at "Lay Down, Little Doggies" by Woody Guthrie, and I will lean back here from my supply of guitars.
The whole supply. That's good.
To if our listeners knew how many guitars you had, would it shock them?
A six, and a
Six.
Okay.
banjo, and a ukulele, and an auto harp. I got a bunch of stuff.
You know, I call the guitar a very large ukulele. That's what I think of guitar.
You know, with two more strings. So, how's this sound? Okay to you?
It does. It sounds great.
Yep.
Lay down, little doggies, lay down. We both gotta sleep on the cold, cold ground. The wind's blowing colder and the sun's going down. Lay yourself down, little doggies, lay down. We hit this old beef trail just 2 months ago. We blistered in the sun and we froze in the snow. In 10 days we're coming to a packing house town. Lay yourself down, little doggies, lay down. That bad hole of water we drunk got sick. It curled up our hair, threw our heads back and kicked. Got lost in a blind canyon, tippy-toeing around. So lay yourself down, little doggies, lay down. Here now we come to the end of our trail. Your hair, hide, and carcass at the stockyards we'll sell. I'll see you in a tin can when you get shipped around. Lay yourself down, little doggies, lay down. Lay down, little doggies, lay down. We both gotta sleep on the cold, cold ground. The wind's blowing colder and the sun's going down. So lay yourself down, little doggies, lay down. There you go.
Yeah,
Yay!
nice. It's like
Thank
song
you.
swap days. I like it.
That'll be on my 19th album next month.
Okay, good. Yeah, sure.
So we didn't. We also didn't mention that he's a famous artist.
Hmm.
Well, more than that, you actually know some famous artists.
Well, I
Um,
crossed paths. Yeah.
Thanks, thanks.
So before the show, I was talking about how I didn't know who the singer was, but when I looked him up, I was like, oh, Arlo Guthrie wrote the song "The City of New Orleans," which is a song I know.
Yeah,
And you aptly gave me a fun fact about that song.
that's right. But I didn't do this.
Who are the dogs that they're talking about in this song? Is it?
Well, for some reason, the dogs are the cows. Beef
Yeah,
cattle.
doggies.
I don't know. There was just lay down little. It's lay down. Like you can't say lay down little cows. Lay. It just doesn't.
Wait, was it a thing to call them?
Yeah.
Okay,
Boogies. Yeah.
okay. So that was a thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
little tidbits of when was this?
1930s.
Okay. A little history here for you.
That's
Well,
great.
thank you so much, Mike, for sharing your songs and your story. And we're actually going to continue this conversation next week on prosumerism. Prosumerism.
Yeah.
I was thinking consumption.
Okay.
Prosumerism.
That's part of it. So we'll
That
talk
is part
about that.
You have been listening to Scientifically Speaking here on WMPG 90.9 Gorham, Portland, Southern Maine Community Radio from USM. Stay tuned for Sports Jam with Colin and Connor. And from your favorite nerds, mask up, and we wish you healthy bodies and clean air.